energetic anatomy and everything we're going to talk about from this moment forward. So anyway, I'm going to move on, y'all. And we shall return back to this material. And we're going to talk about energetic anatomy. And for those of you guys who are familiar with some of this stuff, some of my ideas, some of the conclusions I might make, or the understanding of the emotional frequencies within some of these areas, you know, they might be a little different than what you've encountered. You know, some of it, you know, could really contrast with your experience. And I take that into account when I do, you know, constant research and constant education on, you know, what we're understanding these etheric structures to be. And sometimes I constantly come up against a completely different feeling or a completely different experience when I encounter, say, a meridian or a chakra or an organ than some other people. So I want you guys, you know, once again, take this stuff, you know, with your own discernment and use what applies, take what resonates. So now that we've learned a little bit about kind of the natures of certain, you know, negative energetic manifestations, where, you know, how they feel, certain, you know, categories or things that, you know, could be interacting with, you know, the subtle layers of our energetic body, we're now going to kind of dive into more about where it goes, where it is, where, you know, what happens and how they sort of interact with these layers of the body to create these, you know, these experiences that we have. And so you guys heard me talk about this right before we went to break. Right before we went to break, right at the beginning of this workshop, when we brought attention to these specific areas and we breathed into them, we began to just plant a little seed in your consciousness. This is probably, in my opinion and experience, one of, if not the easiest place to move energy in and out of the human body. Okay, some people are going to be like, oh, no, it's not this, it's this, or it's that. This has been my experience. And so before we even dive into this, you guys bring your attention down to the bottom, all the way down here, to this strange little butterfly-like piece of bone that exists in your skull. And look where it goes, you guys. The temples, the soft, porous bone called the sphenoid, okay? The sphenoid bone placed in the inner skull between the temples is one of the primary entrance and exit points for energy we encounter in the physical world, okay? And so everybody's heard, you know, the old statement, the eyes are the windows to the soul. Yeah, okay. But there's actually a significance there, because what happens right there, we have this soft porous membrane bone. You guys can put your finger on it and feel this entry and exit area in your body. And then we look up there and we notice, well, what connects there? What sort of, you know, energetic architecture do we have around this area of our body? And that's when we notice this thing called the gallbladder meridian, this incredibly wild energetic structure. And, you know, we can identify, or rather, let me just define meridians for the purpose of this workshop, okay? And, you know, this may be a very, very lacking technical description for those of you that have formal kind of, you know, education and, you know, traditional Chinese medicine, or some of the more, you know, established, you know, areas of, you know, medicine that look into these structures. But what I'm going to describe them as today, for all intents and purposes here, is invisible energetic pathways that link our organs, our circulatory systems, and pass, move, and transmit energy through the subtle layers of the dimensional and physical body. The meridians, they hold our motion. They run energy all throughout these wild circuits in our body. And all you got to do is look at that gallbladder meridian on the left there and see the way this pathway of energy circulates around the sides of your head. Many people have talked about this as being one of the primary areas in which we often get some form of parasitic attachment. Not only because the sphenoid is a very soft bone, it has somewhat of a vibratory plate, it can be attuned to certain frequencies. It's part of the etheric antennae system of the body, and that it connects not only the third eye chakra right there in the middle, check it out, there it is, right there in the center of your head, but also, you know, the meridians on the side, the gallbladder, the triple heater, and the urinary bladder meridian, which is, you know, going right up here on the left side, right underneath here as well. And so there's a lot of energy that passes through this area. And so what happens is, you know, whatever you see, whatever comes in visually, an energy or an experience, some form of frequency or wavelength of energy that enters your body visually, interacts with this area. Anything that you hear, anything that we see, anything that we hear. Look at where these pathways go. And so this is like a literal antenna that lines the sides of your body. And so when we talked about the heavy metal toxicity earlier on, and the ways in which the particulate matter can form around the sides of our head, what it does is it creates somewhat of an antenna-like effect, allowing implantation, creating a magnetic host environment, or what we might even call a bait signal that can attract difficult emotion, difficult energy, people or other people's unbalanced, difficult emotional energy. It can attract or create a very, very, a very hospitable environment for those predatory frequency interruptions that we could experience not only in public, but just, from technology, literally from your computer, from your phone. Look where people hold this thing. I mean, there's a number of really kind of like commonplace synchronistic sort of understandings and, these little aha moments we can have when we look at these, these invisible pathways of energy that line the sides of our head, and understand that along with this vibratory bone that connects here, and others as well, and you can see the other ones in a different workshop. We'll talk more about how these things interact and more of the antenna-like effect. But, for the sake of this one, we're going to focus on the sphenoid, and why also, because we're going to be clear in this area in a little while. And so let's look over on the right, triple heater meridian. What does this thing do? Life force, energy transformation, and circulation. Oftentimes it's called the triple heater because it works or circulates energy through three of these primary sort of chambers in the body. Some people might even say they correspond with what's known as the dantians, which is, this three energy center system: the head, the chest, and the lower abdomen. It could correspond with, the eventual idea that we're evolving into that. But regardless, and that's a bit of a non sequitur, but the triple heater, this assists with circulation of all types of energy throughout the body. When this is blocked, people will experience poor boundaries, discernment issues, lack of trust, suspicion, thermal regulation issues, just straight up physical inability to regulate your body's temperature can come from a blockage within this area. And just so you know, you guys, they're not just on the head. They go all throughout the body. Well, not all of them. We have 12 primary meridians that correspond with, our organs and a couple other structures and whatnot, but they go throughout the whole body. We're looking at, for the sake of these two, the sides of the head. And it's a whole, there's a lot more there. But, when these two meridians are blocked up, for the people that I work with on a day-to-day basis, this is probably the number one place that we go. Anyone that's worked with me will know that we work with our temples, number one, as creating that opening, cracking open that really intense pressurized emotional environment, pulling the plug on the bathtub, allowing that toxicity to drain out, that allows us to let go of frustration, overwhelmed feelings, resentment, allows us to let go of irritability, especially allowing us to let go of looping thought and emotional cycles. That's the gallbladder. It has nothing to do with the gallbladder organ, although it does. We're looking at it from an energetic and emotional perspective. What it does is it just circulates and runs emotional energy through your body over and over and over again, just like the triple heater runs energy all throughout your body. And what they do is they constantly circulate this running loop of emotional experience or some form of emotional frequency that replicates over and over and over again. So when we bring ourselves back to the idea of the suppressor parasite entity, which we talked about in the first half of this presentation as being one of those primary, either, parasitic or somewhat of a, sentient entity attachment things, that's where they go, you guys. The gallbladder meridian, right on the sides of the head. That's where we go first. And so when we move chi or some form of energy through there, that begins to dislodge or break through that dark kind of black miasmatic energy. And so we always go sphenoid, gallbladder, triple heater. Even if you're just barely becoming aware of these structures right now for the first time in your life, in a short time, you're going to experience a clearing of this area, and energy moving through this area, and the phenomenon of your own breath passing through this area. And what that's going to do is give you a greater level of awareness of those structures in your body. So good job, guys. before we go on. We'll just okay. And so yeah, Dee talks about just a lot of issues around this area. And so even if the gallbladder is removed, you guys, this is a really good question. Because I've had a number of clients that'll be like, I don't even have a gallbladder. That's okay. You still have a gallbladder meridian. Now, I don't know, what the exact implications would be surrounding, not having the physical organ and the way in which it affects the gallbladder, because the people that I've worked on, we did not approach it in terms of, the physical side effects. What we approached it was clearing this structure on the side of the head that eventually does a weird sort of pattern throughout the body. And, one of the ways you guys can think about this, just in a really simple way, is that this is like the browser this is like your cache. This is the browser on your computer. And at a certain point, you got to clear this and delete all the old data because things don't work right. You know what I mean? It gets clogged up. It gets bogged down with all this experiential data. And in this day and age, as we're becoming more and more empathic, more and more psychic, more and more in tune with the subtle energies, we're understanding these magnetic effects and the pulling in of energy and the porous membrane bone being the sphenoid. And these are just entry points. We're constantly pulling stuff in here. So just keep your awareness there, you guys. Some people, they're going to get really intense stuff on the sides of the head. And so you can go through your energetic cleaning, do acupuncture to start dislodging the stuff. You can work with healers, but most importantly, you can do it yourself. You're capable of moving energy through here and dislodging that running, highly pressurized emotional loop. We'll be doing some of that in a little while. But first, we're going to talk about the vagus nerve. So just in the past couple of weeks, I've been seeing articles about this thing popping up everywhere. Maybe, for those of you that watch TV, maybe, I don't know, maybe they're talking about this on a greater level in other areas of popular media, but I'm not really seeing it just up until recently. I first became aware of the vagus nerve a couple of years ago when I went to Eric Rain's Golden Frequency Immersion group experience, in which I myself, I believe, had a really, really intense vagus nerve kind of blockage. And we'll get into that stuff in a minute, but let's talk about what the vagus nerve is, how this thing plays a role. It's an incredibly complex nerve, but what it is the longest and most complex of the 12 primary cranial nerves. Vagus nerve plays a special role in our understanding and interaction with energies of all kinds within the human body. This pair of nerves connects the brain to the internal organs, thus sending information bidirectionally between the brain, the organs, and especially this thing we call the gut-brain axis, which is incredibly important. This is literally the other brain in your body. Most of you guys have some, level of awareness about, the idea that our intestines, our intestinal meridians and interactivity that takes place within those areas of our body actually have an incredible amount of neurons and connectivity with the physical structure of the brain, moving energy up and down our spinal column through our body to act as quite literally another brain in the body. It's a fact. And, as we move a little bit farther along in science, we begin to understand the subtle interplay of electrical, impulses that move through there. So we're going to understand more about that in the future. But one of the things we do know right now, and we started out this very workshop today for those of you guys that were here in the beginning with literal stimulation of your vagus nerve. What happens when we stimulate the vagus nerve? It's had incredible, promise for, treating things like depression, PTSD, Alzheimer's, epilepsy. It can literally change your emotional well-being. So let's talk a little bit about how this works. And so we have, two pairs of these coming out of, this area in the back of our head, which some of us, you guys might recognize this. We talked about this earlier. If you bring your attention to where this little pointer right here, up in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, you see this diagram of the vagus nerve and how it begins to come down out of the back of the head and the back of the neck, right next to this thing over here, cerebellum chakra, one of the primary connection points or the astral cord connection points for your astral body right here. And so what happens is this is being one of the primary entry and exit points along with the sphenoids up here at the temples, is that some form of either, parasitic energy, emotional energy, outside interference, non-organic, whatever it is able to create some form of electrical impulse in the body as a result of entrance through possibly the astral cord and the cerebellum chakra, through, auditory frequencies, through some form of latent, unresolved emotional trauma in the body. And what happens is that vibrates along the pathway of the vagus nerve. And so when the vagus nerve vibrates, it runs through every single, not every single area, but look at where it goes. It hits all of our organs. It's like this conducting, connective electrical cord that runs its way through everything. And so what happens is when we go through this trauma, frequency, difficult, polarized emotions, when we've got this unresolved kind of, issue rolling around in our body, or even if we're having our, our physiology is being influenced through some form of implantation or, non-organic energy that's in, our space, it affects the vagus nerve. Not always, but it's one of the areas in which I'm constantly seeing in my day-to-day work, people having these blockages, dark miasmatic energy that runs down the back of their neck. Some people get huge eruptions of energy in the backs of their skulls on the right or left side. In my opinion, not every time, but in many cases that can be due to a buildup or a really highly pressurized discharge of energy that extends through cranial nerves, or specifically the vagus nerve, and it creates a very, very highly, charged flow that extends through all these areas of our body. And so when it works its way through things like the lung or the heart on an energetic and emotional level, it's affecting our grief. It's moving into our heart. It's affecting elements of connective emotion and intimacy. It moves into the stomach, and it can affect the ways in which these electrical impulses allow the integration and digestion of foods. It moves into our kidneys. That affects our adrenals, the way we handle this incredible fight or flight instinct. The spleen, which affects our lymphatics, all of these things, stomach, which I just literally confused for the kidney in my pointer. I don't know if you guys noticed that. Very funny. This vagus nerve goes through so many layers of the body. So when this thing is affected, it's literally like this hot wire, like connection point to all of this stuff. And so when this thing is affected through some form of, foreign electrical impulse, you can affect everything. So I might be speaking a little bit redundantly here, but let's look at what this means. When the vagus nerve is affected by implantation, attachment, or other forms of toxic frequency interference, we may experience adrenal fatigue, exhaustion, onset of autoimmune system, shutdown of intuitive signals from the solar plexus, gut and intestinal meridians. That second brain can be effectively deactivated through a frequency of unresolved emotional trauma, or sometimes through really just not listening to our gut instinct. The more and more we fight to turn that off, the more and more we become disconnected and emotionally disconnected from the electrical impulses that move through the body that at certain times need to be activated so that we can be aware of what's going on around us. And so sometimes that happens in the form of involuntary playback of latent traumatic experiences in the body. As a result of vagus nerve stimulation, it can be used to trigger old emotions that will lie dormant in those areas. And so, that can interact with things like the psoas, the liver, the spleen, the kidneys, spleen, where we carry a lot of frustrated energy. You guys, it's a lot of you, for you guys that have done sessions with me, almost always check the spleen. I think it can become very, very backed up, especially with frequency interference. And I see backed up on an emotional level because in my experience, and this might be where, my experience might differ from that of some other people, traditionally when I work with the spleen, this is where I find people's frustration. I find a hot, kind of tense, pressurized, frustrated emotional current that exists as somewhat of a greasy or oily bubble that resides in our belly. It moves oftentimes a little bit over to the left. And so what happens with that is it just sits there, and it's like this hot little sack of bitterness inside our body that can interact with the kidneys, which creates that fear, that fight or flight, that adrenaline. That can interact with the liver, which has that rage and that bitterness and that self-punishment. That interacts with that psoas, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes, which is literally like a cellular recording device for trauma in your body. And what happens is when that vagus nerve stimulates energetic charge through all these areas, it can be used to artificially induce really intense states in the body, mental and emotional disorders, bipolar mania, anxiety, even suicidal ideation can be kicked in through unresolved emotional trauma signals resulting from extreme vagus nerve stimulation. Oftentimes, you guys, coming in from the back of the head, which is where we have that cerebellum chakra, kind of like in the Matrix. You guys remember they have these, you know, these crazy chords. There's a reason why our consciousness was sort of seated with those wild sci-fi images, because they're relevant. And so anyway, as we move on, this can also be pressurized or painful sensations around the base of the skull. Some people get these like explosive feelings there, and in my opinion, it's not necessarily a vagus nerve thing all the time, but it's a buildup and then eventual release of highly charged energy that oftentimes take place because there can be these like etheric clamping like devices that'll be placed over these areas of our body, kind of shutting things down, creating a very pressurized environment. And so it's very important to be aware of the vagus nerve, especially when you guys are dealing with a lot of anxiety attacks, inappropriate fear in the body, getting stuck in one type of an emotional reaction over and over and over again can come from this really disproportionate amount of energy that moves through the vagus nerve. And so one of the most easiest ways that you guys can literally do right now as I'm talking, some of you guys are going to be brave and you'll start doing this right now, is you start very deep, deliberate breathing down in your belly like you're puffing it up like a balloon. You're blowing a balloon in your belly, and what happens is that's one of the easiest ways to manually stimulate the vagus nerve, which is also why invariably after a course of deep breathing, people tend to relax. It's not just because of the hyperoxygenation. It's because you have this nerve, this vagus nerve running through all these areas of the body, and when it gets down here and it begins to flex and move with your breath, it's relaxing, it's circulating and distributing the disproportionate emotional energetic charge in the body. And for those of you guys that are with me, take a deep breath in. And release it. You're going to begin stimulating your vagus nerve in this moment by participating. You're going to gently breathe in again, really big and deep. Just continue to breathe and exhale. And what you're going to find is, as you're listening to the sound of my voice, those of you that are brave enough to experiment with this in this moment, is that you find is that if you continue that deliberate, deep, expansive belly breathing, you will invariably experience some sort of a calming, a change, or a settling of your emotional state. It's a physiological change that results. And just by doing that alone can demonstrate to you the efficacy of looking and treating the vagus nerve, especially when we're talking about implantation, AI implantation, any type of emotional energy that gets stuck in the body. That's a place we want to look at. And as we do that, we will move on to another area. I'm not going to dwell on these guys too much. These are things that we really need to be made aware of, especially when we look at the kidneys. I want to bring your guys' attention over here on the right. We're going to look at the kidney meridian, the way this thing rolls through the body. This is a very interesting structure. And so the kidney is a reservoir of qi. In Chinese medicine, they believe this is where qi is actually produced from the kidneys. It's like pushed out through this area. It's like the transmitter of that. This is where our adrenal fight or flight kind of, frequencies develop in the body. Also, clarity of mind, clarity of emotion, physical, energetic fortitude. Define that how you like. Those are kidney energies. And so, so our creativity, desire, libido, sexual desire, sexual functioning can also be related to the kidney energy. When we talk about energetic, interaction, frequency disruption, implantation, just straight up, blockage of emotion within the kidney meridian oftentimes can cause, disordinate amounts of fear, paranoia, anxiety, depression, intense emotional and mental pressure, sleep disturbances, like we mentioned, sexual issues. But when we talk about this from an implantation perspective specifically, especially when you look at the flow of the energy up and down the front of the body for the kidneys, and that's on the right there. I realize it doesn't say kidney, but I think you guys can figure it out. It's a really interesting pathway of energy. And so what happens is it's really important for this area to be clear on the body so that things can circulate, so that you can muster, use, transmit, and kind of, activate that explosive energetic force within you that is lying there latent and ready to be used. A lot of people will have chi blocks, like little dead spots of miasma up and down this area of the body. And just so you know, this is also in the back as well, running down the backs of your legs and down into your heels down there. One thing you can do, I gotta move my little camera view so I can show you guys. I'm gonna bring my pointer right down here on the bottom of this individual's foot on the right-hand side. If you look at that KD1 right there, kidney 1, that little spot right there, right in the center of your foot, you can place pressure there. Maybe, one or two of you guys who are on this thing right now will literally reach down there and, you can start placing pressure on that place in your foot. And if you hold it there and breathe, you will inevitably, after some time, depending on how blocked this meridian is for you, begin to feel a movement of energy through your body. That energy oftentimes will begin to roll up the pathway of that kidney meridian. Look at those points along that person's body and watch where that energy goes. It moves up your leg, up through your body, into your abdomen, through your groin, and up through your chest. And what you can do is gauge the level, and this is depending on your sensitivity, guys. Not going to be possible for everyone immediately. I mean, it is, but sometimes it takes some time to develop the sense here. You can begin to hold and breathe through that area. Just hold it and breathe. And what you can do is sense the level of blockage or energy flow along this pathway in your body. When you meditate with that, when you sit with it and feel that energy, you could feel a twitch or a sensation or a feeling running along the pathway as illustrated in this image here. And that can, on a certain level, give you an idea of an energetic blockage in your body, where it could be, what it might feel like. It could be an emotion. It could be you palpating or running your hands along those lines in the body and suddenly feeling a very slight tenderness or feeling, or maybe a sudden desire to stop doing it. And that's an important thing to mention, because a lot of times as you guys are exploring this, subtle layers of the energetic anatomy, you will inevitably come across an area in your body, either through just your own meditation or physically palpating that region of the body, and you will get a feeling. You will get an emotion. Sometimes you'll get a feeling in your body that says, stop, don't do this, don't look at it, this is stupid. A very polarized instant switch will flick in the body. In my opinion and experience, that's oftentimes indicative of not only, something that could be an attachment and sort of an implant scenario, but it could also be kind of these unresolved emotional currents, or what we could even call shadow elements, pieces of our own self that is lying unresolved and dormant along these pathways, especially when we're experiencing issues with activating our energy, stepping into things, creating new movements, mustering strength and power to move forward in a number of levels. That's kidney energy. And so when people have blockages there, these are the places I recommend just feeling into yourself. Also on the left side, the liver. Really, really interesting organ. I myself have had a lot of experience, working with this area. It was one of the most toxic organs in my body for a long time. Who knows, it could still be. Definitely doesn't feel like it anymore, but one of my entry points into this realm, in terms of energy where it came through, a need to really, really move through liver energy and to really, really let that go. And for a lot of us, you guys, the liver stores anger, rage, generational programming, governs the intensity of emotion and the level at which it resides in the body. When the liver's blocked, anger, resentment, jealousy, irritability, depression, self-doubt, confusion, despair, those people that you sometimes encounter in the social realm in which they just have that unpierceable disapproval and bitterness, that's like a liver energy, especially when they kind of allow that bitterness to create a layer of separation between themselves and others. In my experience, that's an unresolved liver energy circulating through the body, and it will need to be cleaned. It's a literal thing. And so, just like with the kidneys, you can place your attention and awareness on those areas of your body, especially, and I'm going to bring my pointer, you guys, over here to the right side, right down here, just a little bit above where the navel sits for a lot of people, right at the base of the rib cage on the right side. There's a very, very commonly used hot entry point along the liver meridian. Some of you guys right now at this moment will even place your hand over that area and maybe even tap a little bit. You might feel a little bit of a signal. You might feel that emotion that I'm talking about. You might get just a little bit of a sensation there. That's a very common entry or attachment point, a blockage area for liver energy. So some of you guys that have done a clearing with me, in the course of that, oftentimes I kind of like place my hands over this area and we move a tone. We move a tone through the liver. We're going to be doing that in the clearing in a little while. But I got to move on because we're probably going to be going over on time, you guys, as you can tell. So I hope you guys will stick around. This was, I think, scheduled to go until 2, and it's 1:45 right now. So I apologize. We're going on quite a ride. Hopefully y'all can stick around. And I guess it'll help for the recording that we missed. So yeah, I hope you guys will hang out. But let's move on. This is one of our most common energetic toxic, most common form of toxicity within these structures is usually unrepressed or unresolved emotional energy. And like I said, very, very hot area. It's kind of an appetizing region in the body because it gives off a very big charge. And so let's move on. Let's keep going. Heart and pericardium. These guys are really interesting structures. I'm glad the GIF works on the right because you guys can see the flow of the heart energy. If you can see that, a couple of these other ones were supposed to have that animation, but for some reason it didn't play. But anyway, that aside, let's look over here on the right. Look at the heart meridian, ruler of emotions, warmth, love. A lot of you guys are familiar with what heart energy feels like in the body, the connectivity, the intimacy, the unconditional love, the feeling of admiration, warmth, respect, and just that warmth that radiates from others at times when we're in harmonious vibratory interaction. That's that heart energy. And so when that's blocked, a lot of us know the other side: depression, sadness, disconnection. The heart and the pericardium are really important because these areas of the body give off a very distinct frequency. Very distinct frequency. It's oftentimes where the greatest amount of energetic pH balance emits from the body. The heart chakra also as well. We're not getting too much into chakras specifically today. That's probably going to be in the next class when we kind of go into those structures a little deeper. But in conjunction with the heart chakra, the heart meridian and the pericardium give off a very distinct frequency, especially when it comes to kind of like sexual attachments, what we call sexual misery implantation, which were devices that can be placed within certain areas of the body that can create very distinct and unbalanced sexual behaviors, often leading one towards either victim or victimizer type behaviors, rape scenarios, sexual vampirism, all of those things. Oftentimes, you guys, these connection points, they're attached within, something along these areas, something along these lines. Not always. But it's important to note that when blockage, attachment, or implantation within these regions, especially in conjunction with the psoas, sacral chakra, the root chakra, they can effectively shut down a person's ability to experience joy from sexual intimacy. And this is often the target area for sexually transmitted spiritual diseases, implantation, sexual misery implants, et cetera, et cetera. And the reason why we mentioned the pericardium, you guys, for those of you guys that don't know what that is, it's literally this, it's like this membrane that guards the heart. It's sort of like a muscle. It creates this sort of, energetic layer that sort of guards and allows the heart to function underneath that layer. And so those connection points are right here on the heart, like 2 poles on a battery. Some of you guys that have done clearings with me, we've literally focused energy right into this area. Right here, right in between your clavicle, where your chest connects, and you got this kind of little soft area in there. You guys can start putting your fingers in there and feeling in there if you're brave, and you kind of feel. Sometimes you'll feel an emotion. Sometimes you'll feel a current. Sometimes, every once in a while, you'll feel a little bit of a pop or a movement or a signal. And these things can move throughout your body, and it's a whole other can of worms entirely. But these are areas in which we often experience blockage that lead to unbalanced emotions pertaining to sexuality, connectivity, fear of connection, the way we join with others, the way we present ourselves and allow ourselves to connect with other people in the physical world. And because if we understand, the forces that be that are, choosing or, trying to create in us the energetic environment so that we'll choose to disconnect from, organic human consciousness in favor of something technological, or even just in order to enter a state of separation that allows them to feed off our energy. These are just a couple of the areas that we hang out in. We check them out, we feel them, we breathe into them, we generate awareness about these structures in the body. Even if we can't feel them and understand them right now, we have an awareness building in our consciousness that's going to tell you more about this later in the future. You're going to be aware of the pericardium, of the heart meridian, of the heart chakra. And especially when you encounter certain types of behavior in other people, conditions or things that you encounter in the world, you're giving yourself just a little piece to work with and understanding where these things can exist. And so, as we move on, this is a very important area. We saved it for a little bit later, specifically because for a lot of people right now, they'll come in for sessions, or people that are going through self-healing processes, people that are going through this awakening process, people that you might be quote unquote wanderer starseed, and you may be subjected to what I call the maladies of the starseed. And by that, what I mean is the conditions that we come in with, which for a lot of us, you guys, it's usually these predetermined experiences of some form of addiction, possibly abuse, possibly an abuser scenario. But what they are, these predetermined maladies that we come in with. Sometimes they're karmic conditions, sometimes they're choices that we make. Sometimes it's a whole mix of different things. But one of the places in our body that tends to be the cellular recording device for those very specific types of traumas or difficult experiences tends to reside within the psoas. And so it is the psoas. From a basic perspective, this is the muscle that connects your legs to your spine, supports your diaphragm, it wraps around your pelvis in there and your hips and holds them all together. I think it's either maybe one of the biggest muscles in the body, might be the second biggest, I don't know. Whatever it is, this is an incredibly important fibrous muscle. It's a literal biointelligent massive tissue. I think some writer might have called that a biointelligent organ in the body. What that means is, from an energetic perspective, the psoas can act as a cellular recording device, holding and replaying energy of unresolved emotional, physical, or sexual trauma. When we have these really traumatic experiences in childhood, it lodges itself within this area of the body, especially, those really, really, difficult consciousness fracturing experiences that can come with things like ritual sexual abuse, that can come with things like rape scenarios, that can come with things like extreme emotional and mental abuse to the level in which the body's unable to resolve or deal with that trauma frequency, and it ends up being stored within the body. And where does it get stored? Oftentimes in the liver, in the kidneys, or organs, other areas, but really one of the biggest places, the psoas. And so what it does is it holds and replays unresolved emotional, physical, or sexual trauma. Some people will go through, certain types of yoga, and they'll have this unknowing opening of the psoas, and that will begin this wild experience of almost physical illness in their body for hours, and they have this incredible emotional outpouring. And what that is that psoas muscle opening up, flexing, activating, and releasing those cellular memories. And so psoas has been called our emotional core due to its direct connectivity with the energy process through the lower three chakras, with particular emphasis on the sacral chakra. Our sacral chakra holds the fire of our creative sexual energy and can be a fertile environment for negative energetic manifestations resulting from unresolved traumatic experiences and even past or parallel lives. That is a thing that we find in clearing sessions. Oftentimes, coming out of the sacral chakra, which is the second chakra, oftentimes in the genital region, just above the genital region, or within the area of the groin, slightly above the sacral chakra, as being the housing, of our energy, that creative and sexual energy. That's one of the common attachment points of very parasitic types of energy. That's why we look there oftentimes for things like sexual misery implantation, holographic trauma inserts. And so just, because we didn't cover this earlier on, just very quickly, holographic trauma inserts can act as a false memory uploaded into the layers of the etheric layers of the body, to an extent that when certain, events, pulses, electrical impulses will move through that area of the body, it can create somewhat of a false memory type of a scenario. A holographic trauma, possibly something that did not exist, or the replay of an event that existed in a past life, for the purpose of reactivating or exacerbating whatever existing vibrational elements of that wound that exist in the current host body. So holographic trauma inserts can literally be another person's trauma or a previous life's trauma implanted into your own physical body. Where do those go? Oftentimes in the psoas, not always. To be really honest with you, I have not encountered many things that I will call a true holographic trauma insert. In my opinion, most of the time, they're just trauma that exists in the body that has to be at some point released in order for us to kind of move on in our emotional development. And so that also comes with things like victimizer technology, and even siphon points that we talked about earlier on. Once again, I apologize for those of you guys that missed part one. Siphon points exist as kind of a connection point in your auric field that can allow a hyperdimensional entity to come along and literally attach onto your auric field and create in a feeling or push it in or out or whatever it is. They can siphon life force energy. And so along the psoas, around the back, the tailbone, within the hips, within the groin, within this area of the body, sometimes we encounter these black miasmatic nodes or connection points within layers of this area that can serve as those sort of hit and run black hole siphon things. And so when those are connected to things like the root chakra, the solar plexus, what can be affected there? Well, the solar plexus works with our intuitive capabilities. It works with our self-determination and that emotional, energetic momentum in our body. And so when energy is extracted from that area due to a replay of a traumatic or some sort of trauma insert within the psoas, what happens is that solar plexus energy can be effectively shut down, just like it can shut down the sacral chakra through some form of sexual implantation. That can also extend down to the root chakra, right down underneath us. And while, you know, the psoas doesn't necessarily attach to what we would call any of the physical manifestation of a root chakra structure in our body, it still comprises the base of our so-called pyramid of needs within the self. And so when the root chakra is affected, along with those other areas, the psoas, we find ourselves often repeating cycles of negative self-manifestation, as well as a host of other lower chakra issues, which for a lot of us can be this really deeply inset and programmed beliefs, you know, lack mentalities, programming that will exist in this, you know, psoas right there as being this, you know, almost like an organ in terms of holding cellular memory. The psoas can also hold deep elements of generational and ancestral programming that we pick up from our parents, from our family of origin. It can be interlaid or through some, you know, maybe we can even say holographic trauma inserts. Those sources or frequencies of energy can also be placed within the psoas, so that oftentimes when we, you know, we try to heal ourselves, we try to take new moves, we try to create change, we try to break through old cycles, especially old tendencies, old beliefs. We end up, you know, going through some form of reactivation of latent trauma energy in the psoas, and that can have this effect that literally just shuts us down each and every time. And so it's very important to begin doing trauma release exercises. Some form of, you know, yin yoga is very, very helpful. Something that can open the pelvic floor, really open up and expand the musculature in the psoas. There's a number of ways to do it. There's a lot of people that can really help you with that. I would go to Eric Rains for, you know, really, really solid advice and help on how to open your psoas and really release the trauma that's in there. And I say that because, you know, for a couple of years I've gone through that process with him at his the workshop. So this is a very important area. Very important area. You guys need to be made aware of this, especially for those of you guys that are still replaying and dealing with latent trauma, especially when it comes up against, you know, sexual intimacy, blockages around that, and sometimes explosive forms of fear that can arise in the body when we're experiencing certain types of intimacy, or, you know, even feel trapped or somewhat threatened, and we go into this ultra heightened state of awareness or anxiety or fear. That's that psoas muscle, not just the psoas, but it's one of the possible places that we want to be made aware of for negative energy manifestation. So, excellent. And so we're just going to move on because we're almost at 2 o'clock. So you guys can tell we're going over, but that's okay. It's going to be worth it because you guys, we're going to be going through a process in a few minutes here. We're going to be clearing some areas of your body as a group. Especially when we do things as a group, things are amplified. And so with that, I want to start implanting the idea for you guys right now. We're seeding your consciousness today with the idea that you're going to be doing some toning. You're going to create a physical sound with your voice during this clearing. So if you guys got people at home or your family and you feel a little bit worried about them, you know, being embarrassed, get over it, because we're going to be taking agency and control over our healing. And I'm going to be asking everybody to be toning along with me today. This is one of the ways in which we're going to be creating a literal scalar frequency in your body and moving energy through these areas. But let me go on here. So we dropped a lot of information on you guys. For those of you guys that have been here for the entirety of the presentation, thank you very, very sincerely, because, you know, we gave you a lot. I gave you a lot of stuff. I dropped this huge can of worms on you. We come out here with this bucket of like, hey guys, boom, drop it on the table, and we're sifting through some of it, and we're picking up the things at work, and some of it we're throwing out, and some of it we're going, whoa, I know this, I have this, we're creating layers of awareness, and that's really good. It's really cool, and it's very helpful. But what do we do with this? Now that we hear about all this crazy stuff and these implants and these wild things that are going on in our body, and these entities and the ways in which and where they're attaching, and all those things, now what? That's great. Not everyone has the capability, to go into a meditative state and start moving energy through their body instantly. We all can do it, but it takes learning, and there's a process that some of us will have to go through so that we can get to the point in which we're able to heal ourselves. And so what can we do? Now we have this information. Now what? And so what do? You take responsibility for your energy. First and foremost, we talked about this in the beginning with respect to the phenomenon of, just psychic attack and how we're affected by other people's emotions. And so when we say take responsibility for your energy, this is a can of worms for some people, but what I mean by that is take full responsibility for each and every experience you have in this life. Understand that you chose this. We are responsible ultimately for ourselves and for each and every experience. In my opinion, I have never been a victim. And while I have experienced things that we might call being victimized in this life, I've never identified myself as a victim. And so I choose to take responsibility over what I am transmitting out to this world in terms of my own ideas, my own programming, my own emotions. And I also, equally, you guys have to take responsibility for what we're willing to receive, because we have a choice. Certain things are going to be placed upon us through our agreements to incarnate here in this realm that we're going to have to deal with. But we have a choice to the level to which we can integrate or choose to integrate and allow this energy to, influence us. And so how do we limit that influence? Heavy metal detox, you guys talked about this earlier. I should have put the list on here, but some of the things you can take. Fulvic acid, Fulvic, fulvic acid. Has an incredible chelation effect on the body. You can take silica, you can take chlorophyll, you can take iodine, you can take cilantro, you can take diatomaceous earth, you can take magnesium. There's a whole bazillion other things that I'm forgetting. But in my opinion, if there was something that I was going to do after this workshop today, if I wanted to take this seriously, if I was like, I want to begin a path of really clearing my body of all of the openings and possibilities for some form of energetic or frequency-based influence, I would start at the base level and begin to detox my body from heavy metals. Incredibly important. And I know you guys can see some of these other lists here. I'm going to check your questions out for a second. Thank you very much. Yeah, I do. I go a little bit fast. I'm trying to cram some information in there. Thank you, Sandra. I appreciate that. So yeah, I'll try to slow it down a little bit, you guys. Thank you. And so yeah, zeolite. Thank you. Absolutely. There are a number of ways that we can use to, bring this toxicity in our body down. But the reason why we want to bring the heavy metal toxicity down is really because we want to reduce the antenna effect created by heavy metal saturation at not only the sphenoids, but along the temporal bones and moving back into, the occipital, back in the back of our head. This acts as an antenna. And as the heavy metal particulate matter builds up in your body over time, this is where it gathers, among other areas in the body. But one of the places in which it tends to gather is around the sides of the brain. Around the sides of the head, primarily because of the, the meridian structures and the chakra and the magnetic kind of push and pull that we have from those things. So when we bring down the heavy metals in our body, we reduce that sort of bait signal, or, the level to which, we're able to be kind of affected lowers when we remove those toxins. So you can also begin self-healing, transmuting your deepest wounds, trauma release exercises. You guys Google that for those of you that want to learn how to open the psoas. Energy clearing, it doesn't have to be from me. There's a lot of people that do this work right now. You can do it on your own as well. But really what it's talking about is taking agency over your healing, taking control over your path, and, taking sovereignty by learning how to heal yourself. And so that's why we talk about learning that energetic healing modality. Clear yourself. Learn to understand when you're getting affected by other people's emotions. Along with that, learn to clear your personal environment. I hear, people talking in somewhat of a new agey tone about, using sage and Palo Santo and burning salt. In my opinion, they have great relevance. I think that they can help us very greatly in somewhat of cleansing our environment. There are many entities or parasitic sort of influences that will hang out despite, however much sage you burn, however much Palo Santo you burn, however much salt you bathe in. Oftentimes, if it's already inside within us or within the layers of the body, there's a different protocol that we would go through toward clearing it. Clearing your personal environment with sage and Palo Santo is incredibly helpful for not only creating a sacred space, but for kind of lessening the amount of environmental impact. And believe it or not, you guys, it really does have somewhat of a very distracting and very difficult effect on disembodied human spirits. And I'm not a medium. I've had mediumistic experiences. So, take that with a grain of salt. But through my understanding and experience, yes, sage and Palo Santo can clear your home for a temporary period of time from certain types of parasitic, environmental, emotional energies, or disembodied sort of incarnated spirits. It's very difficult for them to exist within the vibration that's created by burning these things. So it's very helpful, very, very helpful. Begin regular spiritual practices. You guys have heard me talk and other things about Qigong, Tai Chi, meditation. We all know about this by now, you guys. This is common knowledge. But really, it's about continuing to educate yourself, using discernment. Learn to recognize the frequency of truth. In my opinion, everyone here existing right now has the ability to discern actual truth in your body. For some people, it's difficult to recognize that frequency in the beginning because of things like heavy metal buildup in the body. Because a lot of us are walking around with very deactivated or slow-moving intestinal meridians, very, very poor enzymatic activity within the gut, really wild acidic imbalance, in our stomachs and in our intestines, and that can create the breakdown of intuitive discernment. So when we begin to try to understand the frequency of truth and what the actual feeling of truth is in your body, you begin to recognize that in other people. You begin to recognize that in the people that you work with and people in your realm, and those are the ones that you want to align with because your body will tell you what is true. But oftentimes, existing in this highly weaponized realm, those senses have been deadened. They've been turned off and deactivated. So learn to recognize the frequency of truth. You're going to embrace and develop your fourth dimensional intuitive abilities. A lot of people are really caught up in 5D right now. Everyone's like 5D this, 5D that. I'm in 5D. For most of us here that incarnated in this realm, we're quite literally what we might call a sixth density entity that chose to come back into a third dimensional human body for the purpose of really rapid spiritual advancement. So the reality is, whether you guys subscribe to this idea or not, it's totally cool. We've been in 5D this entire time. Each of us has a layer of the dimensional self that exists in the fifth density or fifth dimensional space. Now, the reason why everyone, this is my opinion, is very, very keyed up into the idea of entering 5D right now is not because we're entering 5D, but because we're going through the fourth density transition process in the body that gives us, for the first time, the awareness of the fact that we are connected with a 5D or fifth density dimensional aspect of ourselves. And so what it means is we've been existing in 5D this entire time. The reason why we're quote unquote discovering this now is because we're going through the integration of fourth density, and there's a difference, fourth density, fourth dimensional frequencies within the body that allow us to discern and experience the very beginning of the concepts of what fifth density or 5D is. And so, that's my personal experience and understanding of that phenomenon. I think other people have had that as well. But, a lot of opinions about 5D. But one thing we can agree on is as we open up the fourth dimensional intuitive frequencies in the body, we begin to experience empathy, telepathy. Going to be, for a lot of us, by the time this third dimensional incarnation ends, a lot of us are going to be actively integrating elements of real telepathic communication with other people. We are already experiencing it. You guys already have a telepathy module in your body where it starts as within the heart chakra. If you're not aware of this, you guys, this is going to be the biggest area of frequency movement on the body. Oftentimes right in the center, not always, But this is where the transmission begins when we talk about sending an emotion, sending a feeling, sending a frequency, even sending a thought. Because when we communicate telepathically, those of us that have really experienced what we call real telepathic interfacing will understand that there's very little verbal interaction that takes place with the phenomenon of telepathy. It's an instant knowing, an instant realizing, an instant transmission of a feeling, an experience, a thought, a word, all wrapped into one. And so embrace that. We need to embrace that. And really with that comes the understanding that we need to be aware of what's mine is mine and what's yours is yours. It brings us back to the concept of taking responsibility for our energy. And so these are just a few of the things that you can do. Detox, self-awareness, clearing yourself, spiritual practices. Really go easy on yourself. Just be gentle with your development and understanding that, you know, we chose to incarnate in here. We chose to come in here for this series of really wild catalysts toward growth. And, you know, we are not alone in this experience. By my direct interaction on a daily basis, you guys, I am interacting with the spiritual team, the higher self aspect of each and every one of us, or rather the people that come to me for sessions. That's what we do. We tune into that higher self. We tune into those that have chosen to guide and assist as we go through this dimensional shift. They're kind of gently nudging and working with us. And when I say they, what I really mean, you guys, is literally us. For some of us, maybe all of us, I know myself, we will inevitably discover somewhere down the line that it was literally you guiding you this entire time. And for some of you guys, it's gonna be like, what, really? But feel into that. Use your discernment, and it's all about what you do with this information. Where you take it, developing sovereignty, rather, control, definitive action, working toward what we chose to become. So let's move on, you guys. We're gonna go into the next phase. Boom. Huge contrast. We're going to do some energy work. And so this is the point. Once again, we went through a lot of information, everybody. We talked about a lot of stuff. This is what we've been waiting for. This is the stage in which we're going to go through an energetic activation and a brief meditation in which I'm going to be opening up some of these areas for you. But what's really happening is you guys are going to be engaging in this process as a group. Synchronizing your respiration, synchronizing your heartbeats, most importantly, synchronizing the flow of energy through the auric field around your body in harmony with those other people in this group. And so if you can, you guys, you bear with me for a long time today. We're going to come back for just a second. Get ready. Coming back. And as we do this, I want you guys to look around. We've been hanging out here for about 3 hours here today. Those of us that are here, and those of us that were here for some of my other stuff, it's good to see your faces. I'm just now looking at you. And so what we're going to be doing here today, guys, is we're going to be joining into a fourth dimensional energetic container as a group. So it's important that you become willing to look at the faces of the people that you're going in here with. Even if you're just looking at their name, it's okay. Not everyone can turn on their camera. Don't worry about it. You know, if you're at home in bed, it's okay. Don't turn on your camera. You don't have to embarrass yourself. But this is important, you guys, because each of us here has chosen to undergo this process of spending time with each other here today. Going through a process of learning, of activation, of this rapid fire verbal process of me, you know, slamming this information into you for the sake of time. And we'll be doing this again. I'm going to invite you guys to the next one of these we do because I'm sad that we lost the first half of the recording. So all of you guys that are here, I hope you'll join me in September for the next round of this. But I want you guys to look at who's here and understand that through some series of agreements, we all chose this moment, we chose this path. We chose to come to a greater understanding of who we are and what we chose to do in this realm. And so what we're going to go through in a few moments, you guys, is a very deliberate type of meditation in which we're going to open up our crown chakra and work through some of the areas of our body. But it's important to understand that through this process, we're going to be amplifying our energy through the understanding that each of us exists as one being. Even for those of us that have just a very, you know, elementary basic understanding of the oneness or the intelligent infinity that binds all things in this world, it's really easy and simple to at least conceptualize the idea that when you're looking at those other faces in this group or those names and they're looking back at you, you're quite literally looking at another version of yourself. on another timeline, in another life, that chose to come here for this experience and experience yourself in this wild process. So in a few seconds, I'm going to click back onto that screen. And we're going to go through a meditation, but I just wanted to check in with the other versions of you that are here today, the other versions of me. We're all going to do a process together. So thanks for hanging out with you guys all day today. I know what's going on. I'm going to switch back and we're going to begin the meditation. So if you guys are comfortable, settle in. From this point forward, all you have to do is be able to hear my voice. If you want to look up at the screen, you can look at some of the areas that we're going to be talking about, some of the areas we're going to be working with. But the reason why we went through this wild crash course of slamming through all these areas of the body and all this wild information was to generate the awareness in your body of these structures, so that even if you barely grasp what these things are and how they work, you have somewhat of a familiarity with the idea that emotion and energy can be moved through. So as we settle in into our seats or our chairs, we're going to begin to allow the settling and opening process as a group. And so the way this begins, you guys, is what I'd like you to do is in the next few moments, I'm going to count from 3 to 1, and we're going to begin a series of deliberate deep breaths that we're going to be taking as a group. I'm going to give you an example of the type of breaths. We're going to be really filling our bodies with energy and oxygen. And so when I count from 3 to 1, we're all going to take a deep breath in together, like we're sucking through a straw, like we're pulling energy down into our body and we're blowing up your belly. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be bringing energy down into this vagus nerve, you guys. We talked about how when deep breathing takes place in the body, we begin to manually stimulate this structure. How do we manually stimulate the vagus nerve? You will know this from this point forward for the future. Deep, deliberate, expansive breathing deep down in your belly. You want to make all of your organs move. You want them to flex with that breath. And so some of you guys are already doing this breathing right now, which is awesome. That's a good sign. But I'm going to count from 3 to 1, and we're going to take a very deep, deliberate breath. We'll hold it for a brief count of 3, and then we're going to completely deflate the body. Okay, so let's do that together. Let everything out. 3, 2, 1. Hold that breath in. Hold it. 3, 2, 1. Completely allow that air to leave your body. What I'd like you guys to do in your own way is continue to breathe deeply. I'm going to be speaking, and we're just going to talk a little bit as we begin the settling and the relaxation process. Continue to breathe deeply, focusing your breath all the way down in your belly, like a balloon or a basketball, way down there, as if you're blowing yourself up with each and every breath. And as you do that, you have an understanding that the other selves, the other versions of you in other areas of the world are going through this unique process, and that when we do this as a group, we greatly enhance and expand our ability to move this energy. So as you continue to breathe deeply, slowly, deliberately expanding your belly, begin bringing your attention and awareness up to the very top of your head, right at the crown, right in the center, the opening to your crown chakra. In the next few moments, I'll count from 3 to 1, and we'll take a deep breath in together as a group, intentionally beginning the opening and cleansing process with the crown chakra. And so let's do that together in 3, 2, 1. Deep breath in, hold it at the top of your head, and release. Continue to breathe deeply as you hear my voice, just focusing on the sound and sensation at the top of your head. There's no postures, there are no mantras, mudras or positions that you need to hold for this meditation. You're free to relax, breathe, lay down, just allow yourself to feel comfortable. Just simply maintain awareness of your breath. And as that next breath comes in, hold that attention at the top of your head. When I count from 3 to 1, we'll take a deep breath in as a group. Imagine you're breathing in from the top of your head. Let's do that together. 3, 2, 1. Hold that breath. And 3, 2, 1. Exhale all the way down. Completely deflate your body. And as you do that, I'd like you to reach out to that childhood version of you with that incredible imagination, with that wildly vivid cartoon-like imagination. There's a child that exists within each of us. And as that breath comes in your body, up at the top of your head, just begin imagining. Just see it, feel it. Ask yourself, what would it feel like if I was breathing at the top of my head? What kind of a sensation would that be? Bring your awareness to the other versions of you in front of their computers, also breathing through the tops of their head. And as I count from 3 to 1, we'll take that deep breath in together and I'll increase the current of energy moving in from the crown. It's very simple and easy to do. So let's take a deep breath in at the top of our head in 3, 2, 1. Hold that breath. 3, 2, 1. Exhale. Continue to breathe through the top of your head for a few moments. Simply engage that childhood version of you. Ask yourself, what would it feel like? What would it sound like if I could breathe from the top of my head? What would that look like? Maybe you could imagine yourself standing in front of a mirror. Just look at yourself in the mirror in your mind's eye, and depending on the way your hair is, maybe you'll take a deep breath in and exhale. Maybe your hair moves just a little. Notice the sensation and flow of energy at the top of your head. Notice and understand that as a group, you're opening the crown chakra and allowing the release of that tense, pressurized emotion inside your body. In the next few moments, I'll be placing my hands right at the tops of your head. It feels like a heartbeat or a pulsation. And I'll recite a mantra in Sanskrit. It's called Diksha, gently opening and cleansing the crown. And so for now, you're just tuning in at the top of your head and breathing as a group. We'll take a deep breath in together, you guys. Let's do that together. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Release. Om Shri Sarveshwaraya Namaha. Om Shri Param Jyotishe Namaha. Om Shri Param Pranaya Namaha. Om Shri Param Karunyaya Namaha. Om Shri Param Pavachaya Namaha. Om. Please allow that heartbeat, that circulation at the top of your head. Today we're going to begin programming the energy body as a group, as one organism, as one being, the highest good of all those present here. So for each of you present, I'd like you to repeat after me in your minds and your hearts a very simple phrase. We're just allowing and creating, sealing the energetic container around those members here, preparing the body to receive this clearing energy, this healing frequency. Repeat after me in your mind the following phrase. In the name of the one infinite creator, I allow this healing energy to release or to remove any energetic or emotional toxicity from my mind, body, and spirit, known or unknown, in this life or beyond. We'll count from 3 to 1. We'll take a deep breath in. I'd like you to move your eyes up to your brain like you're looking at your brain. Let's take a deep breath in. 3, 2, 1. Look at your brain. Move your eyes up to the top of your head. Hold that breath as a group. And 3, 2, 1. Release that breath. All the way down to the bottom. Very good. And so as that next breath moves in and out of your body, as a group, we bring our awareness to the temples at the right and left sides of your head, that sphenoid plate, that porous membrane of bone that we talked about, vibrating with heavy metal, vibrating with consciousness, vibrating with emotion, vibrating with environmental frequencies. We bring our attention and awareness to the temples. For those of you that would like to directly participate in your own healing today, I invite you to take your fingertips and place them at your temples. I'll be placing your fingertips, or rather my fingertips, at your temples as well in the next moments, and we'll move some energy through this area of the body, gently releasing and dislodging that tense emotional loop, that running circuit of thoughts, of trauma, that tense pressurized emotion. We're going to open that gallbladder meridian, that triple heater meridian. But before we do that, we're going to move a little bit deeper into the layers of the body, a little bit deeper into relaxation, a little bit deeper into those etheric and elemental, those energetic blueprints and those layers of the body. So let's take a deep breath in together as I count from 3 to 1. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Hold that breath. Focus on your temples, right and left sides of your head. And 3, 2, 1. Exhale that air out of your body. Very good. And so we're going to move a little bit deeper into the consciousness, deeper into relaxation, deeper into clarity. As that next breath comes into your body, I'd like you to just simply imagine, just simply notice in your mind's eye the appearance of 10 steps directly in front of you. A very simple and easy image to bring into the mind's eye. And today I'd like you to just imagine we're standing at the top of 10 steps looking down. As that next breath comes in your body, just simply look down at those steps in front of you. Notice what they're made out of. Notice the materials. Notice the color of these stairs. Some of you may have stairs at home or a place you're familiar with. For some of you, that image may rapidly change or move in your mind's eye. We need simply allow and understand that we are standing at the top of 10 steps, preparing to descend deeper into the inner workings of our consciousness and the dimensional layers of our body for the purpose of healing. And as that next breath comes into your body, just look down at your feet in your mind's eye. Notice what you're wearing. Notice what age you are. Notice where you are. As that next breath comes in your body, look down at your feet once again. Look down at those steps in front of you. As I count from 10 to 1, we'll descend these steps as a group, as one being, as one energy, as one force, entering into the healing chamber, into the deeper layers of our dimensional body for the purpose of release. Look down at those steps in front of you. Take a deep, slow breath in. Put your foot on that 10th step. Here we go, as a group. 10, 9, 8. Gently stepping down, feel your feet on the stairs. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Nice, slow, easy breath in when you're ready. There you go. Good job, everyone. Breathing as a group. Allow that breath to gently leave the body. And in this moment, we reach out to the guides, guardians, ancestors, galactic family members, all those currently guiding the soul group, members of this workshop here today. The mind-body-spirit complex is present now and in the future, and whoever should ever come in contact with this energy and this transmission, we welcome you to the space for the purpose of healing. In the name of the one infinite creator, we welcome you to the space. We'll take a deep breath in 3, 2, 1. Deep breath in. And exhale completely. Bring your attention and awareness back to your temples. If you'd like, you can place your fingertips at your temples once again. In the next few moments, we'll be creating a tone. This tone sounds like we'll be moving this tone through your body. This is the point where you take agency and participation for your own energy and begin a path of creating a healing frequency of your very own that you can use to clear and move emotion and energy from your body. So I invite those of you willing and capable of creating this tone to allow it to come from your body in whatever way you're capable of, in whatever way feels comfortable. Bring your intention and focus to your temples, the right and left sides of your head, the connection to your gallbladder meridian, your triple heated meridian, the sphenoid bone, the third eye chakra. In the next few moments, I'll create a tone and we'll move this through your body. Please join me in the creation of this healing energy for the expansion, growth, release, and empowerment of all those that we encounter this energy. Deep breath in. Deep, slow breath in. Hold that attention and awareness at your temples, everyone. Note any emotions that arise in your body, any reaction, any memory, any images. This is old energy leaving your body. Allow that to flow freely from your temples. We'll take a deep breath in as I count from 3 to 1, and we gently detach these cords of energy from the temples as a group. Let's do that in 3, 2, 1. Deep breath in. Hold it. 3, 2, 1. Release. Nice slow breaths. Bring that energy and awareness back into your body. Very good. Feel that flow moving through your body. A number of you are very online and very activated. Trust yourself. You're generating new awareness of energetic anatomy. You're generating the awareness of your own energy flow in your body. Let's start bringing your attention around to the back of your head, right where your neck and your skull connect, right in the center, that cerebellum chakra. It's as if we're going to be pinching the back of our necks. If you want, you can take your fingers and gently place them at the base of your skull, at the right and left sides. What we're going to be doing is moving a tone and a frequency through the vagus nerve, dislodging and removing, purging any trauma codes, difficult emotion, any difficult frequencies, implantation attachments. We're flooding this line with chi and life force energy. Place your fingers at the back of your skull. Let's take a deep breath in together in 3, 2, 1, bringing our attention back to the skull. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Hold it and release. Very good. And so just like we did at your temples, on the top of your head, just simply imagine that you're breathing from the back of your skull. Imagine what that would feel like. Maybe it would sound differently than breathing through your nose or your temples. Maybe you'd feel that breath moving out of the back of your head, down the collar of your shirt. Let's take one more deep breath in. 3, 2, 1. Hold that in the back of your head. 3, 2, 1. Release. So I'm going to come around and I'll just place my fingers right at the back of your head here. You might feel a little bit of a heartbeat or a sensation right in the center in the back of your head. And once again, as a group, we take agency and control over the frequency of healing in our body. In the next few moments, I'll be creating a tone. And we move this tone as our breath through the center and the back of your head, moving this down through the vagus nerve. Simply imagine and pretend we're pushing this frequency, this light, this glowing fluid, this new energy, this healing energy through that intense circulatory pathway, moving through all of your organs, lighting up each one. You're just simply bringing awareness and flooding this structure with new energy. We're going right into the back of the head. So we'll take a deep breath in together and then we'll begin. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Deep breath in. Good job, everyone. Take a deep, slow breath in. Focus your energy at the back of your head. There you go. A lot of you guys are already there. We're going to begin detaching that energy right out of the vagus nerve, right out of the back of your head. It's a little click, a little pop. We'll do this together. Here we go, guys. 3, 2, 1. Good job. If you feel my hand around the back of your head, we're just moving that energy out. It might feel like a tingling or a sensation. Sometimes pins and needles. Sometimes it's an emotion. Sometimes it feels like liquid. Sometimes it just feels like you're relaxed. Good job, everyone. Let's move down a little bit lower through this process as we dislodge and move and set up our body to receive new intuitive frequencies, new manifestations, clearing the road for the development of the fourth dimensional frequencies in the body. Let's bring our attention and awareness down to the solar plexus chakra. For those of you who are aware, that's right above our belly button, right in the center of the abdomen. A literal turbine for chi energy in the body, twisting and sending and circulating it through the subtle layers of the body, sending it up into the heart, down into the sacrum, the root. And so in a few moments, just like we've done in other areas, we'll take a deep, slow breath in, pulling that breath into the center of your belly, right in the center. And so let's do that together. 3, 2, 1. Hold that breath. And 3, 2, 1, release. So if you're brave, please take your hand, place it over your solar plexus right in the front of your body. What we're going to be doing is creating a circular motion in your energy field. It's like a swirl. Some of you guys will feel that instantly. It's like a washing machine. We're going to begin opening up and expanding and moving energy throughout the abdomen, clearing space for the activation of the heart, holding space for the energy of the sacral chakra to develop and heal in its own process, to create that balanced, creative sexual response in the body. We're going to move this current down into our root chakra, reestablishing the stability of our hierarchy of needs, allowing that root structure to settle in and join with the earth star chakra underneath our feet. And so in the next few moments, you guys, we're going to do one big tone. And as we breathe, we're breathing from the center of your belly. We're pushing that throughout the body as if we're inhaling and forcing glowing liquid throughout your body. Watch it go from head to toe. We're just simply engaging that imagination. And as we do this, we'll take a deep breath in together. Let's do that together. 3, 2, 1. Deep breath in. Hold your intention at the solar plexus. And 3, 2, 1. Release. Okay. So we're going to move a tone through the solar plexus, everyone. Once again, join me in creating the scalar wave healing frequency and transmitting that through your body. Allow this frequency to move from the center of your body down to your feet and up to the top of your head. And just simply allow this energy in whatever way we're capable of receiving it as we activate the solar plexus, improving, generating, awakening, activating those intuitive frequencies and that secondary gut-brain access in the body. Here we go. Deep, slow breaths. And we'll take a deep breath in in 3, 2, 1. Deep breath in. Focus on solar plexus. Very good. Nice slow breaths. And as you breathe, tune into the awareness in your body, tune into the emotions in your body, tune into the sensations and the energy, the images, the memories that move through you. Understand that at this moment you are experiencing this current of healing energy along with a multitude of other versions of yourself, not only here in this moment, but also across the dimensional planes of time, in the many realms and bodies in which you are currently existing. And understand that as you move, accept, allow, and activate the multidimensional layers of the self that you serve to activate, step into, create, empower, become that mission, that calling. Take a deep breath in. We're going to pull the plug. Just allow all that toxicity to drain out. I'll count from 3 to 1, and it's like we're just pulling a plug right out of your solar plexus. Some of you may experience emotions or sensations. This is old energy leaving the body. You're in a safe place. So we'll do that together. We're pulling the plug on this toxicity, allowing this drain out, allowing the purge and the release of whatever's affecting these areas in the name of the one infinite creator. In accordance with our power as the co-creators of this realm, we choose to release this toxic energy at this stage of our incarnation. Here we go, guys. Take a deep breath in. 3, 2, 1. Focus on your solar plexus. 3, 2, 1. Release. Allow that emotion, those memories, those images, those feelings in your body, allow them to drain out. Breathe deeply. Just allow whatever comes up. You're purging your system. You're removing that bait frequency, those unresolved emotions and those tense, pressurized currents in the body that lead to those negative energetic manifestations. Allow that breath and emotion to gently leave. For some of you, if it becomes too much, just take that deep breath in. There you go. Allow yourself to settle. And so as we do this, we come close to the end of this meditation. We bring our awareness down to the bottom, right underneath your tailbone at the perineum, right underneath you. And as that next breath comes in your body, just simply imagine the color red. We're opening and connecting the root chakra with the earth star chakra underneath your feet. We're going to be pulling a cord down underneath you, just reconnecting the coherence of the subtle energetic systems in your body, allowing that timeline energy, that most optimal timeline in which each of you is able to step into your mission, into that awareness, into that multidimensional version of you. Today, we're creating a stronger connection with that timeline, allowing that energy to integrate more smoothly with the body, coming up from the earth grid and the crystalline core of Gaia. Breathe in the count of 3 to 1. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Bring your attention to your root chakra. And 3, 2, 1. Breathe out. I'll place my hand underneath you. For some of you, this might feel like a heartbeat coming up near your tailbone. And today we're going to do one last tone. I invite you to make this the best one yet, the most resonant, the most emotion you can muster. We're reconnecting ourselves as a collective, as a soul group with that timeline, that most optimal timeline for ascension, for clearing, for empowerment, for our mission, for our purpose, for that version of us that we chose to become. Today we create one more connection to that element of yourself. Take a deep breath in, focus on your root. Here we go. Take a deep breath in for me, all the way in. Allow your body to begin to settle. Be placing my hands at your feet, everyone. You might feel a sensation at your feet. Bring your attention to your feet. In the name of the one infinite creator, we thank you and honor you for your assistance here today. As that next breath enters your body, bring your attention over your right shoulder. For all those that are joining us, look over your right shoulder in your mind's eye. Behind your right shoulder stand your guides, your guardians, your ancestors, your family members, your galactic family, all those guiding and assisting with the mind-body-spirit complex is present here. We thank you and honor you for your assistance here today with our education, our awareness, our development, our healing, our empowerment. We ask if there are any additional messages, communications, healing, or activations that we need, begin transmitting the contents of those messages in whatever way you're capable of receiving. Dream, synchronicity, direct message, whatever way they're capable of receiving, begin transmitting contents of those messages now. And as that next breath comes into your body, we begin to guide our awareness back to that mental image of those stairs that we walked down when we came in. Those 10 steps, only now we find ourselves standing at the bottom of those stairs looking up. And as we prepare to return back into that timeline, that June 2nd, 2019 timeline of ascension, disclosure, and empowerment and liberation, look down at those steps in front of you leading up. Look down at that first step. As we count from 1 to 10, we just gently rise in awareness, rise in energy level, rise in our peace, our healing, our joy, our love, the connectedness with ourselves and others. Look down at those steps in front of you. Place your foot on that first step. Take a deep breath in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Deep breath in. Bring your attention to the top of your head. You can open your eyes whenever you feel ready. Bring your attention to the top of your head. The last and most important thing, we're going to create a little pop, a disconnection at the tops of our heads. What's mine is mine. What's yours is yours. Say it to yourself. What's mine is mine, what's yours is yours. I seal my energy. What's mine is mine, what's yours is yours. We shield and close this energy in the name of the one infinite creator. Hold your hand above your head. Here we go, little pop, guys. 3, 2, 1. And take a nice slow breath in. Come on back when you're ready. Allow yourselves to drift back into that June 2nd, 2019 timeline. That June 2nd, 2019 timeline in which you empowered yourself, in which you created your multidimensional awareness, in which you learned the process of self-healing and clearing and empowerment. That timeline in which you stepped into that mission, that chosen mission that you've created. And so now that looks like we got most everybody back here. It feels like we're back. Here we are, guys. We've come close to the end of this presentation today. I want to thank everybody for being here. We've gone through a hell of a crash course. I invite some of you to come back in the coming months for those of you that were missing the recording here today, but I want to thank everyone very sincerely for taking this journey with me. Today we've given you a few more pieces of information to work with in understanding your purpose, placement, and experiences in this strange realm. From here, it's up to you to embrace and develop the awareness of the multidimensionality within you. As awakening beings walking the path of ascension in this physical realm, we have a responsibility to use this information to the best of our ability for the healing, empowerment, and liberation of mankind from the parasitic construct. Whatever your mission may be in this incarnation, you made a choice to come here. You chose this life. You chose this body, and you chose this very moment you're in right now. As you go forward from here, please continue to make a conscious choice to embody the true essence of what you chose to become by continuing to walk the path of spiritual and energetic development. By adopting a consistent practice of energetic maintenance, emotional clearing, and self-healing, you will consistently improve your innate ability to see, feel, hear, and interact with currents of non-physical dimensional energy moving through our world. I am living evidence of that. Many other people are as well. This is inside each of us. And today we just took a couple more steps along that journey. And so I say to you, it's truly my greatest honor to be working alongside each of you in this realm. We spent a lot of time here today. We went a long way, so we're not going to hang out too much longer. But I want to invite you guys, if you want to reach out to me, you can do it through my website, rememberyourmission.com. You can also book an individual session there if you choose. The reality is, and I'm looking at your questions coming in, before I kind of wrap up and look at some of the comments and questions, I want to say, you guys, I did not come to this information on my own. I have had much help along the way, incredible amount of help. And so I have to give thanks because I'm a little bit emotional to those that have helped me with this journey. And so I want to thank Eric Rains, Barbara Buck, Britton Kimberly Dodge, Nicole Stanford Crocco, and especially my partner, Arad, for assisting with the learning, the creation, the understanding, taking me through this journey and, giving me the tools to help bring this information to you guys. So I thank you for being here. And I'm going to come back on the screen. Here we go, coming back. And so, yeah, you guys, that's pretty much it. I'm going to look at your questions here. And if there's anything else, any comments, anything you guys want to throw out there, feel free. I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me today. And so I was serious when I say I'm doing this again in September. We're going to be doing another round. We're also doing another round of the Multidimensional Tarot, kind of like the next step versions where we're going to be going a little bit deeper. And so, because we lost part of this presentation, I want to invite everybody to come back. If you choose to, you can come back and get the whole thing later on. It'll probably be even a bit improved by then. And so I'll be sending out the half of this recording, beginning with the anatomy portion, probably within the next 24 hours or so. I'm also going to send out all of the slides. So even though you didn't get part of the presentation, you get all the written stuff. So you may be able, for those of you guys that were here for the process, you can kind of, jog your memory or bring back some of that stuff. So Yeah, I think that is it for everyone. Look for an email in the coming days, and I hope to connect with you guys in the coming months, either at Dimensions of Disclosure in a personal session, or maybe in September when we do this again. My name is Matthew Aaron. A morning and deeply honored to be with you guys. Are we going to do a lymph thing? Well, we're moving lymph through our body when we're moving all of that stuff through your abdomen. And that's actually what the solar plexus charging process is. So there is a specific lymph procedure that we can do. I'll even explain this before you guys go. If you want to learn how to do this on your own, you have one of the basic starting points already. Because if you're able to move a vibratory tone, actually physically through your body, one of the ways in which we know lymph is affected by energetic frequencies is either through the interference or through its blockage in our body. And because it's this, this plasma fluid, one of the places you can begin to do is begin toning and moving energy down the sides of your neck. More than a third of all of the 700 lymph nodes in your body are going to be above this region. So you can also go down into the collarbone. And one of the things you can do is begin feeling in here for an emotion. Literally, you guys, sometimes you'll palpate your body. You'll put your fingers in there. You'll get a feeling. You'll get a pain. You'll get an emotion. Sometimes you'll get a vibration. And if you're willing to go into a meditative state and begin to tone, bring awareness into these structures of your body, you can even look at a map of the lymphatic system. And I regret that we didn't have the time to go fully into that. We may end up doing that in the next one, but just to give you an overview, of that is now, that's absolutely one of the best ways to begin dislodging and moving the fluid down through your body. Because you have incredible pockets right here of lymph nodes, and they connect all the way down right into this area. This is one of the big stopping points. So you guys can start putting your fingers in there, in your collarbone, stretching that energy around, moving it through. And so I don't even know if that's what you're asking, Lynn, but that was kind of where we went. And so we are, oh yeah, there you go, rebounding. Thank you. So you know what we're talking about. Thank you. Yeah, that's just kind of one of the ways. When we do that with a tone in a meditative state, what you're using is you're able to use that frequency transmission that can affect us in a negative way through, 5G or cell phone towers or other people's energy or, attachments in your field. You're beginning to use the resonance of your own energy field with that tone. And that's literally creating a scalar wave frequency in your body. So I'm going on another tangent. Thank you for that question. And yeah, thanks you guys. I really appreciate it. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. And I look forward to meeting each one of you at some point in the future. Maybe we'll see you again. I love you guys. Thank you so much. And that concludes it for today. Take care.